Step aside, Fallout, Outer Worlds is here.
Game Awards Part 2.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. I am your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, Mr.
I was going to say, where's the Mr. at? Saw Bridges bringing you guys lucky episode 89. 89, wine and dine.
It's not nearly as fun as 69, but
89,
that's okay.
It's going to be a fun time.
Well, this is a wholesome adult show. A wholesome family show. Unlike the reader mails that we do, which could go off of the beaten path. With that being said, we are Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. And if this is your first time joining us, you can normally find us on YouTube in video format on Mondays at 10 a.m. PST and 12 p.m. CST for our southern people that are joining us. It sucks to be in the South, but howdy. Vince says howdy so much that I keep in my mind being like, were you at one point in time in the South?
A cowboy.
And it didn't work. He apparently grew up majority in California. Why are Californians saying howdy?
Yeah, y'all have no right.
The gold rush.
Until you own a horse.
The gold rush.
The Beverly Hillbillies. Dang, they were the original hillbillies. Howdy.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Anyway, you can subscribe to us on there, hit the little bell notification, let you know when our stuff comes out as soon as it comes out. Like we said, every Monday and occasional Fridays, or at least the first Friday of every month. And then Saul's plans he has, when he's not tricking people in the Discord, he might be coming back to his Saul Plays series.
Real soon.
So if you want to talk about what we've talked about in the episodes, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below, or let us know what you do and don't like about the show down there. If you want to listen to us in audio format only, you can do so on a multitude of podcast services, including iTunes, Google Play Music, Google Podcast, and of course Spotify these days, though there are plenty other across iPods, iPhones and Android devices alike. Or if you just want to listen to us on computer, you can do so as well. If you want to find us on social media, we are on Twitter at Triangle SQRD. Some rat butthole had taken Triangle Squared, so we couldn't get that in. But if you like what we're doing, you can talk to us on there. We do different giveaways and stuff there. We have a Facebook group, which is Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. If you will send a request, we will gladly accept you into that group so you can talk and hang out with people there. And of course, you can support us on Patreon at Nartec Gaming. That is our umbrella that we decided we wanted to do everything under. We like Nartecs, or we like narwhals, and we like tech, or at least I do. So I don't know, what's your stance on narwhals?
They're majestic.
Okay, I'm glad that we're in the same realm here.
Yeah.
But to be fair, this was started when we had 3 people, and 2 of us really love narwhals enough.
Yeah, y'all really, really love narwhals. I just think they're pretty dope.
Yeah, narwhals are cool. Majestic's a good word, though, man. That's like, really hammers in.
People don't realize they're real creatures.
Well, and what else people don't realize is that the horn that goes through their head is actually a tooth.
Yep.
Which is also cool. But they eat things that people also like sea lions and stuff. So there's that.
Sea doggies.
Sorry if you did not know that going into this. Where was I going with this? Oh, you can also join the never-ending chat in Discord, where we get real riled up and crazy sometimes. And Kiki sometimes says inappropriate things.
And I beat everybody who tries to challenge me in Smash Brothers.
Oh, yeah. Saul currently is the undisputed Discord champion in the new Smash Brothers game. So if you want to come and take that throne from him, please join the Discord. The link for it is in the description below. Hop on in, challenge him. But, my boy's pretty good as long as he's got Toon Link. If he doesn't have Toon Link, prepare.
No, I was messing people with Cloud last night, sir.
Okay, Cloud and Bayonetta are also like really easy to do well with.
No, that ain't true.
I disagree greatly, at least from my experience with the Wii U version.
Is high rating. By the way, I've played a lot of Smash Brothers this weekend. I guess we'll move into that.
Yeah, we'll move into what we've been playing. So yeah, Smash Brothers, everything, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think Cloud's up there on the meta list. I don't pay attention to competitive Smash that much. So.
He was for a good stint in the Wii U edition, but then again, Bayonetta came in and just knocked everybody out.
I definitely know Toon Link isn't. Toon Link is pretty far down the last time I looked. But Smash Brothers and Destiny, that's kind of been it. I actually just started playing Smash Brothers the day of release for Friday. And now it is Sunday when we are recording, and tomorrow...
Well, you technically played Thursday night
No, I didn't.
Right? Or did you not pick it up until Friday?
We recorded Read About Thursday night.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So,
My bad.
I probably have about 15 hours on it so far. I feel like I put a lot into it over the past. Like we played for 2 hours last night, roughly.
Considering that it's Sunday at like 5 o'clock, yeah, that's a lot.
It is, yeah. Like 2 hours last night, just with them, and I was playing for like an hour and a half beforehand, so that's 3.5 hours there on just Sunday.
Well, Destiny 2 has
And I was
been
off Friday.
my thing, and I have a kidney stone. If you heard the other episode where we did audio only because I felt terrible, and I still feel terrible. But you know what? We have traditions to upkeep and standards. But because of that, I've been bedridden a lot and falling asleep a lot because of pain medicine. So I've been playing a ton of RuneScape, old school RuneScape on phones because it's easy to just lay there, wake up after sleeping for 3 to 4 hours, and then play for an hour or two.
Is that what you did last night when we were supposed to record?
Oh, no, I just straight fell asleep.
No, I'm talking about you woke up and played RuneScape.
Oh, yeah, whenever we were... When I woke up, yeah, and you were like, we're just going to do it tomorrow. I was like, back to RuneScape.
Yeah, I was just like, well, we were supposed to do this 30 minutes almost ago, and
I started playing old school
hungry.
RuneScape about, what, 2 weeks ago almost, and I really picked up back heavily into it, I'd say last weekend. And in this week's time, because I've slept a lot, I've gotten quite far. I've done pretty much every free-to-play quest there is. I've gotten pretty high level. And I'm about to probably buy into a membership because I'm to the point where free to play is about exhausted.
OVER.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a cap like Warcraft or anything like that. Or I think even Final Fantasy, did they have it to where it's free up until a certain level?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think so. Not for the base game.
Really? That's surprising because most of the time that's what MMOs do to try and get people to stay, or at least get newcomers to come in, actually, is to make it to where you can get to, like, I think Warcraft is level 30. Up to level 30 is free. But that's also the level where you actually start getting cool stuff in Warcraft.
I could be completely wrong. But, well, according like Heavensward, which is... No, I'm looking for a Realm Reborn.
Oh, are you trying to check and see if it's set up like that?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we've been talking about going back and playing it, or you and Kiki and Vince and everybody has. I'm not necessarily against it. I just don't want to spend a lot of money and then also spend money on a...
No, I told him in the chat today, I was like, I'll buy you the game. So that way you'll eat the $15 month cost, and then it's like, you don't like it by the end of the month? We'll cancel it.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. We'll see about that.
At worst, you lose $15 for hanging out with friends.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that is time for us to move into the releases. So hop into the drop, good sir.
Oh my God, he did it. For those that don't know, no, you did it right actually.
I didn't mess with you.
Okay, yeah, you did it right.
Well, first of all, I bodied you last episode. So
you did?
Yeah, I made you say episode 30 or 87 again.
So you just said episode 37.
Yeah. I have excuses.
For those that don't know, the drop is this week's weekly PlayStation releases across all platforms. First up on the list, we have Atari Flashback Classics for the PS Vita. We have Atari Flashbacks Classics Volume 3 for the PS4. BB and Tina the Movie Game for PS4.
Netflix coming out here hard.
BB Bloxburg The Great Witch Broom Race 3 for PS4. I told Brent we have been doing this for almost 2 years now, and I never recall there being one or two.
I feel like these are probably phone games, and then the third one's the first time that it's coming over to consoles.
It looks exactly
like it. But more importantly, how is a Netflix series that was poorly received getting 2 games in the same week?
Sony paid them money, or they paid Sony money, either way.
Yeah, I mean, Sony's just like, hey, do it. We're going to make money off of the kids who want to play this horse something game on the one. I don't know.
I wonder how much those cost. We have Borderlands 2 VR for PlayStation VR. Desert Child for PS4. Double Switch 25th Anniversary Edition for PS4. Dragonfly Chronicles for PS Vita. Earth Defense Force 5 for PS4.
There you go.
My mouse wheel.
I assume that Ryan should be excited about that. He likes the Earth Defense Force series.
Was it
I've still never played
Ryan
it.
and someone else?
I think there's someone else. Was it Shoko?
Shoko, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Escape Game Aloha for PS4. Gungrave VR. Gun VR UN.
Yeah, I don't know what that's trying to be.
I don't either.
The United Nations release?
Maybe so. But that's obviously for PSVR. Getting a physical release. That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. It looks really cool. They've showed it off at the PSX last couple of years, and it looks really good, and they're obviously putting a lot of work into trying to make it work out. But that's a series that's not been seen since PS2. Coming back in VR is a very odd thing for it, but it may be best for it, because I think that as a series, if it was trying to stick to what it was about and kind of like close to those roots, that wouldn't fly so much with modern game design. But when you're doing it in something like VR, where it's more about the immersion of what's going on, and sometimes older game design and game design language can be pulled off a little bit better because you're immersed with having, you're immersed in the moment, so it doesn't necessarily matter. Whereas it would bother you a lot more if you were playing with a controller.
Right.
So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Makes sense. We have Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms for PS4. Kingdom Two Crowns, not Kingdom Come 2, for PS4. Kingmaker Rise to the Throne for PS4. Night Trap 25th Anniversary Edition for PS Vita. Red Master for PSVR. Richie's Plank Experience for PS4. Wow, that looks like a VR game, but it's not.
Is it not really?
Nope. That's weird.
So hold on. Are you telling me that someone's going to pay money to go and pretend walk out on a plank from everything that this is telling me and not doing it in VR?
Even the shoes are empty. Like
yeah, like when
VR
you're playing
shoes.
VR.
Yeah. We have Smash Hit Plunder for PSVR. Prey Typhon Hunter for PSVR. The Video Kid for PS4. Warbot for PSVR, and that's the last one on the list.
There was a game that you mentioned on there that I think was an old Sega Genesis game or something like it. It was
one of the 25th anniversaries. I'm sure.
The 25th anniversary or whatever. What was it called?
I closed down.
Night Trap. That's what it is. Yeah, I remember very, very loosely. It was a Sega Genesis CD game. Huh. Weird.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's crazy how games come back. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things that this generation and even late last generation showed me was like when they started taking all of the Sega Dreamcast games and putting them onto PS4 or PS3. I'm sorry, which was awesome. Being able to play Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 on the PS3 was so much better than trying to play it on Dreamcast.
Dude, Sonic Adventure 2 is amazing.
Well, it's one of those things like you go back to the Dreamcast, and as much as I love it, it's just very much a product of its age. And the number one thing that's weird about it is when you go to play the controller, not only is the controller very big and the analog stick in an odd spot, but the analog uses something that Nintendo for years would not move away from. They did it even with the Wii Nunchuck. The octagonal, or I don't even know how many sides it has, but it feels like an octagon. But it's that, or maybe even a hexagon, but on the analog stick, to where like when you roll the analog stick, it hits a hard corner. It's not a circle like it is on newer controllers.
I actually didn't mind that.
I hate those.
Just the fact that it's never been brought to my attention until now. I guess it means that I was fine with it.
I guess certain games, when you're actually trying to control a character with it and you're needing to make like an actual kind of slow rotation over, and you go to do it and you're met with like a resistance because you can't just continuously circle like you can on a PlayStation controller or something, of the modern gaming eras. I mean, pretty much, I haven't seen that outside of Nintendo, because I want to say, didn't the GameCube even have it?
No, the GameCube's analog stick had the rounded.
The 64 did.
Yeah, the GameCube one had the same thing. I'm 99% sure. I'm pretty sure that there was a Mad Catz controller for an Xbox 360 that had an angled grip as well.
I don't know. It's such a weird thing to me that they would do that. Yeah, look. The GameCube controller had it too.
Are you talking about the housing for the analog?
Yes.
I thought you were talking about the grip on the analog.
No.
Why would your thumb hit that?
I'm not talking about that. It's that when you go, it's that the stick is not able to just keep swiveling.
Oh,
like you're met with a corner.
Thumb. I was like, okay, I could see how that would be comfortable on an analog stick. But
No. I just meant like, so for people who can't see, essentially what we're talking about is the housing for the analog stick itself is octagonal or whatever, instead of, it's an octagon just turned sideways to where the cardinal directions on it are essentially in a corner. But I don't like that, because like instead of like games where you're actually trying to do fine movements and needing to like kind of swivel, you hit and then you can't swivel naturally. You're having to like slide and you keep hitting
I don't guess I ever had that problem.
Faux barrier.
Now I really want to get a GameCube controller though.
You know what's funny is I almost
never beat me at that point.
I almost think that the GameCube controllers for the Wii U, is this it?
No, that's the new one.
Yeah, it still has it. I didn't know if they took it off.
Oh yeah.
I can't stand that. It's weird to me.
The GameCube is one of the best controllers ever made.
I mean, I'll argue again, but I will say this.
The PS2.
The GameCube controller was the first time that Nintendo ever made a competent controller to me.
Well, I was gonna say no. It's the SNES controllers.
Well, I don't really count the SNES controllers or any controllers. Hold on. What I mean by that is that there's far less inputs on those. They normally didn't, like, they weren't. What I guess I mean is once PlayStation came in and essentially brought in with it the L1, L2, or L2, R2, multiple triggers. In general, I mean, when you think about it, those old, I can't remember, was SNES the one that just had AB and ABXY? It was a 4-button setup as well, and then a D-pad, and that was it. Right. And then it had singular triggers. Yeah. So again, it was not far off.
It's the same as Nintendo.
But also they were just like brick controllers. They didn't have ergonomics to them. They're just
those controllers are uncomfortable.
Yeah, they're very uncomfortable. And that's, I guess, what I mean is that, like, then you have the 64, which was ergonomically weird because why in the hell would you have a handle in the middle to where you constantly have to move your hand?
Yeah, never mind. NES controllers have AB. I was thinking XY for some reason.
AB and SY is on the SNES,
right?
Which is also a brick controller.
I was correcting myself though. Yeah. No, it's not a brick controller. It's curved.
Yeah, you're right. It's a brick in the middle, but it goes and curves off.
Welcome to
yeah, you're right. To
AB Start Select, the Nintendo podcast.
Look, my point being is that this is what I hate about those weird controllers, and going back and playing Sonic on a new console generation that did not have that problem was a lot more fun to me.
Nope. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was the best iteration
Which was
on the
GameCube iteration, right?
Yep. That's the best iteration.
Okay.
Best.
I mean, I disagree.
Best.
But that's also because I never played it. I remember that it existed. What did it add? Because I know with the battle tag, it had to have done something. I assume there was some form of... Well, the Dreamcast version had multiplayer, I swore. So it couldn't have been just multiplayer.
I don't know if it played. I don't know if it had multiplayer. I just know that it still had the Chow Garden in it, and it still had everything similar in it, and then an awesome City Escape song was still in it.
Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. It's amazing. I love it.
The bass line goes so hard.
It's one of my favorite songs ever. Anyway, that was quite the tangent, and I apologize. I hope that doesn't happen a lot this episode. Saul, try and keep me in line.
It's not going to happen a lot this episode because I am hungry.
My brain is very all over the place right now. Well, because I should be medicated, but I'm not, so that I don't sleep. Well, because Brett, we bring this to you.
Let me guide you into the news.
Thank you, good sir. Here we are in the news. First things first, and this is pretty cool, but it's already said and done, so this is just more for you to know now. The PS4 release of the PS2 classic Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy received a physical and collector's edition release from Limited Run Games, but sold out almost instantly, which most of their cool products do. The collector's edition included the soundtrack for the game, an art/design book, a USB drive that looked like a PS2 memory card, which is actually pretty cool, a trading card pack, which is always weird to me. I don't know why they're ever in there. Doom came with it, and I still have that Doom trading card pack. I didn't even see the point in opening it because
it's useless.
They're all the same cards as far as I can recall. And what are you trading them for? You can't use them for battle or anything. I've never understood trading cards that didn't have an actual purpose.
Well, baseball cards I can see collecting a team and stuff.
Well, and because they were different years, so it was like they had different stats and stuff.
Right. I was never into that. I didn't get that when I was growing up.
Me either. But I guess my thing is when you're playing with a trading card, like when I actually think of trading cards,
it's like because you could play against people.
Yes, because you're trading with the potential to be able to better utilize the card that you traded off or that you traded for. So, anyway, and it also came with a metal replica of a precursor orb, which is pretty cool. The company plans to do the same thing for the other PS2 entries in the series, aiming for all to be released by June 2019. So that'll be Jak 2, Jak 3, and including Jak Team Racing, which is pretty cool, or Jak X Racing.
As long as I can get 2.
Yeah, 2's a really good, interesting game.
And if they do Daxter, boy, will I be happy.
They didn't do Daxter, and they should. That'd be really cool.
Josh, you're failing me.
He actually watches this, and he's like, no, I failed Saul, the one person that I never wanted to fail.
I'll give you monies.
Oh, yeah?
In return for product.
All right. Despite modest sales, Bethesda offer a final update add-on for Prey titled Typhon Hunter, which we went over in the drop. So what it is it will add a new multiplayer mode and a VR-only single-player experience for the game. And for players who own the digital deluxe edition of the game, you'll get it for free. Or if you purchase the Moon Crash DLC, it'll also be free for there. But it is the final thing that they're doing for the game, which makes sense. That game actually... It's one of those weird games where a lot of people...
really bad.
It didn't sell very well, and it didn't necessarily review super hot.
That was another game that went on sale not too long after release.
Yeah.
I just now realized that. That's 2 Bethesda games in the past year, not this current year, because Prey came out late last year.
Yeah, I want to say it was, August 17?
No, it was... I'm pretty sure it was...
I can't remember, but I do remember it's been at least a full year. It didn't come out this year. I remember I bought it, played about half of it, and it just never gripped me like I hoped it would. Man, it was May?
The day after my birthday. I was like, I knew August didn't sound right.
Man, it's been a while then. That means they've almost...
Not quite as late as I thought it would be.
Yeah, they've supported it for coming close to 2 years. That's impressive. Good for them. A little over a year and a half. Square Enix have announced a live stream event for its upcoming game Left Alive, which is its... a shoot off of its mech series. I can't remember what the mech series for Square Enix is called right now. Front Mission Evolved or Front Mission, I think is what the series.
Mission?
No, I think it's just called Front Mission. It's the mech series. I think the last time we saw a game in the series was Evolved on the PS3. Anyway, this will be specifically touching on story and gameplay for the game, but the live stream appears to be in Japanese and oriented towards the Japanese fans. But if you are interested and you want to check it out because maybe you speak Japanese or who knows, you can check it out on December 12th at 8 p.m. Japan time, which, just to give you a frame of reference, is around 5 a.m. our time and 3 a.m. Pacific time. So if you are that dedicated, go on. Otherwise, wait for the... translation to come over, and I'm sure you'll get all the news the next day. Next up, after tepid sales, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is doing one of the things I actually like it when games do. It's being given a free trial on all platforms with the ability to carry over progress if you purchase the full game, which essentially just means that you're downloading the full game and it has a trial barrier, and then when you purchase it, it just removes that barrier. This is a smart move, but I also think it's come a little bit late. But I guess in their mind, they wanted to wait until the Black Friday window was done.
I almost crapped my pants.
That probably picked up on the mics. My daughter threw a toy against the wall. Let's see.
I thought we were dying. I thought we were getting shot.
Next up, Nier Automata, our 2017 Game of the Year winner, in case y'all didn't know, has now surpassed 3.5 million in worldwide shipments and digital sales. So that's pretty cool, and that comes about 6 months after it released on Xbox, which was around summer of this year. So with that said, right before it released on Xbox, it was clocking in right over 3 million. So be it whether the Xbox helped it reach that next, close to 500,000. Who knows?
I'm sure it helped a little bit, just because the word around that game is so positive.
Well, exactly.
I'm sure tons of people got it on Xbox when they could.
Yeah, it came to Xbox with very positive word of mouth. So. Speaking of other odd surprise things, though, Sony have dropped a surprise collection of Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, and Beyond Two Souls all in one package for PS4, titled the Quantic Dream Collection. The collection comes in at $40, but is currently only available digitally. So if you were hoping to get it physically, this is very similar to what happened over here with the collection of Beyond and Heavy Rain. We do not appear to be getting a physical release. So I don't think anybody is either, at least with the Beyond and Heavy Rain one. Europe got a physical release, so a lot of people were able to just import it, which was really nice. But
still a lot of support about Detroit right now, too.
Yeah, no, I think Detroit's still in a good spot, and they had a couple of spots at the Game Awards. So even though I don't recall it winning anything, I still think it was one of those things where being mentioned on there is still good for you in word of mouth. And of course, you have the sales and stuff. So I'm sure it was on sale. Somebody probably grabbed it. And again, it's one of those things where I'm really interested to see what happens, because that was the best-selling Quantic Dream game to date.
We'll get another tech demo in 2020 to show off the PS5, and then that'll eventually become a game in 2026.
Well, I'm curious, right? Because Beyond and Heavy Rain were in the same console generation, about 3 years apart. Heavy Rain came out after a long development in 2010, and then Beyond came out in 2013 as one of the last hurrahs for PS3, even though it wasn't received nearly as well. But could we see something like that again? But that kind of comes off, a lot of people are talking and wondering, definitely with words from Quantic Dream themselves, that they might be moving away from PlayStation with their next game, or at least PlayStation exclusivity, which in my opinion would be a huge loss for Sony, because Detroit did very well, had great word of mouth, and I think it's one of those things where it would be worth Sony to try and extend, or at least work with them again on another exclusive game. I think, and I'm really curious on this, I haven't looked into it, though I'm sure that there's something that exists. I would not be surprised to learn if Sony had already tried to buy up Quantic Dream and maybe they just denied, similar to Insomniac. Insomniac have a wish to remain independent.
Yeah.
Which I guess just means that you're never
tied to Sony.
Or
Or one system, really.
Exactly. Or you're never tied to one publisher, I think is what it
Right.
comes down to. You have flexibility to potentially, like, say you want to make a game and you prototype it out and Sony says, no, we don't want to make that, but some other publisher says, yeah. Then you get to go on with that creative project. And I think that that's probably good in some senses for a studio like definitely Insomniac that's got a number of teams. But I think with a studio like Quantic Dream, they don't do other titles outside of PlayStation titles. So it seems almost weird to me that they would not try and work with Sony at this point, because as far as I know, Sony said yes to every game they wanted to do. So even though they said yes to Detroit, despite the fact that Beyond didn't sell too well. So it's like one of those balancing acts of, I would really like Sony to hop on and try and acquire Quantic
E3
Dream.
2019 comes out. Microsoft, welcome Quantic Dream to our list of studios.
Dude, that would be wild.
It would be.
That would be far more wild than
Ninja Theory?
Ninja Theory. Ninja Theory is still one of those interesting things where when you look at Ninja Theory's sales, their sales always did better on PlayStation, and decidedly so on certain, like the only game they ever had that broke 1 million sales was Heavenly Sword, which was a PS3 exclusive, and it came at a good time when God of War was not going to be on the PS3 for some time, or it wasn't. God of War 2 was announced to be a PS2 game, and it was still a ways away. So Heavenly Sword came at a great time. And it's probably what helped it break 1 million copies on one platform.
Yeah.
Now, there are other games broke 1 million copies, but only across multiple platforms, and it was still barely.
Right.
Like Enslaved, I think, sold 1.1 million, with the majority being made up.
I forgot that game existed.
Oh, yeah. And the majority of sales were on PlayStation, though not by enough. Not by a lot. I think it was 600,000 to 500,000 on Xbox. But still, if you think about it that way, it's just one of those things where at least they had a multi-platform partnership, or at least experience with the multi-platform. With a studio like Quantic Dream that hasn't had a game off of Sony's system outside of the remake of or the remaster of Fahrenheit, which is some people know from PS2 days as Indigo Prophecy here.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing that's not been on a Sony console, and even that came to PS4. So it would be really crazy. There was that announcement though. For those who aren't aware, we normally keep rumors a little bit away from the show when they're not a lot to be founded off of, but there was a Twitter rumor going around for a little bit, and as I've seen, it's not been cleared up completely, that Microsoft was in talks with a studio that Sony had worked with in the past, and that's very vague and very wide open because it could be anything. But then the rumor mill kind of circulated back around, and it got around to that it was Giant Sparrow who had made The Unfinished Swan, and originally were making What Remains of Edith Finch for PS4 exclusively under the Santa Monica XDev setup, but then that kind of fell apart, and they didn't do, XDev kind of stopped supporting all the games they did, and then I think it was Annapurna Interactive is the ones that came in and scooped that up and released that game. So it would be interesting if it was Giant Sparrow, but it wouldn't be a huge get, like I think Quantic Dream would be in comparison. Moving on to the next thing. Research website Superdata has released data on the sell-through rate of VR headsets this year, and PSVR leads the pack at 1.3 million units this year alone, which is mighty impressive considering what it is. That is more than Vive Focus, Oculus Rift, traditional Vive, and Samsung Gear VR all together this year. But it did face a lot of competition from the Oculus Go, which is the wireless Oculus that is far more close to something like the Samsung Gear VR, where it's a standalone headset that doesn't require anything. As far as I know, I think you might have to put your phone into it, but it's definitely cheaper. It's $200. It's in the price range of the Samsung Gear.
I think it's a standalone unit.
I
saw
so too.
somebody I was falling asleep while watching it, but it seems like a really cool device. They have apps built in and stuff where you can hang out with your friends by a campfire, like avatars.
I saw that,
dude. That's pretty cool.
I've been seeing the commercials for it when I've been watching Hulu for How I Met Your Mother. So
commercials.
Yeah,
Hulu.
Exactly. But that's one of those downsides I have to deal with. But I've been seeing them on there, and it looks like there's voice chat built in and stuff like that.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty cool device for the price, for sure.
At least I think more of a device than something like the Samsung Gear VR, which I think is also around $200, but you still have to utilize your phone.
I'm pretty sure that's $300.
man, if it's $300 and you can get the PSVR for just $50 more normally, that's going to be
I'm gonna fact check myself.
not good for them.
The last time I saw it, I swear I was like, I'm not gonna pay $300 for that when I could buy that I buy the VR PlayStation VR for that.
Yeah. Anyway, that makes sense. A number's this impressive when you have a year full of games that everybody loves. I mean, Firewall Zero Hour, got a lot of attention, and it's been one of my favorite games this year. It's very fun. Of course, Astrobot did really well.
I won't die. It's $130 at Target. It's a $95 on Amazon. So yeah, it's
okay.
So I must be thinking of something else.
So still more priced considerably than that, but considering that your phone is the brain of it all, that makes sense that it's a little cheaper.
Yeah.
I'm about to say, if it's $300, and that's insane if you still have to put your phone into it, because what is it doing at that point? You know what I mean? Because your phone is not only the brains, at least the way Samsung Gear VR used to be, it's also the screen.
Don't forget about Google Cardboard.
And then Daydream as well. Google Daydream is the official Google product.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about Cardboard specifically.
Yeah, which I think is very cheap, like $10 or something when they send it to you.
$5.
Man, yeah. I never messed around with it, but I know YouTube supports it. Last thing on the list, though, is Bethesda have finally caved on the canvas bag controversy that we talked about last episode and have promised to send the buyers of the Power Armor Edition new bags made from the originally advertised canvas, with the bags scheduled to ship sometime next year. Somebody went through, and who knows how they figured this math out, but they spent roughly 54 cents a bag on the nylon bags that they ended up including in the collector's edition. So it seems like they were trying to cheap out, but it is hard to say. I mean, the jokes about there being a great canvas shortage were definitely funny, but I'm curious as to what...
I can't believe they were serious, though, with that excuse. Like, you have a team of PR members, and you're saying canvas is a rare resource in the world right now, and that's a blatant lie.
Well, because we didn't hear about it anywhere else, right? I mean, what other industry was affected by this massive canvas shortage?
JanSport. People who make school backpacks.
Yeah. I mean, that makes
Converse.
sense. Yeah. Yep. Literally any canvas. My shoes are canvas. I mean, who knows, man?
Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby was definitely... Oh, man.
Well, they're conspiring. They got to sell them painting canvases. So that's where it all is. I got to line my tinfoil hat with painting canvas now.
Yep. Good. You have a couple of them sitting around your house, I imagine. So
I did. I got my new book in today. You think they're going to let the government read my mind when I read that book? I'm already finding out the secrets. The secret machines.
Oh.
So I guess we'll head into Reader Mail.
Yeah. Let's go into Reader Mail. I'm going to pull up Facebook since I didn't pull it up a second ago. I apologize. But while you read off the Twitter questions, I will get that.
So, for those that don't know, Reader Mail is our segment of the show in which we ask you guys to ask us questions and answer them live on the show. We have 2 questions from Twitter, 1 from our Facebook group. You should join that if you haven't already, and follow us on Twitter. And if you do ask us questions and we get multiples of them, don't worry. We will answer all of them. And like Brett said earlier, the very first Friday of the month, we have Reader Mail. And we just got the newest Reader Mail out, audio only. I think that may be the way to go since Kiki said he didn't care. Nobody else has spoken up. That was one of the big deciding factors. It was really comfy. Let us know if we were really vibing each other on that episode. Anyways, first question up, we have our good buddy Richard Rivero. He says, what are your guys' thoughts on people... Nope. I'm sorry, Richard, to get your hopes up. That was in the vault. That's in the vault for next month. Sorry. If you... Richard, don't kill me.
That sounds like it was probably a question that was a little more...
It's a little more off-topic-y and personal.
Okay.
But I did pick 2 ones this week that I actually thought were pretty cool. One is kind of off-topic in a way. If you could appear as a character in a game like Greg Miller and Spider-Man, what would you choose, or what game would you choose and why? Comes from our good buddy Sean One Neo.
I gotcha. We have a special thing I'm going to do. This is somebody who just joined the Facebook group, Mr. Josh Ho, and he has a question that he kind of just put outside of anything, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it and then also answer the ones in the Reader Mail. We'll have 4 this episode. This is more of a special thing because he said he didn't know if it would be a podcast episode. I stumbled upon it at the right time, Mr. Josh, so we will answer it here in a second, but we're going to get through this first and foremost. I apologize. I'm very scatterbrained, like I said.
Very much so.
So say the question one more time for me.
If you could pick a game to put yourself in, like Greg Miller and Spider-Man, what game would that be?
Oh, yeah, this is Sean's question. Okay, I got you. Man, that's a weird one. I have like because Greg was kind of like faux put in there. Like, he wasn't officially in the game, but it was something that he obviously championed out, which was, I can't even remember what he called it at this particular section. It was shirtless Spider-Man.
I thought it was fat Spider-Man or something.
I'm pretty sure it was shirtless Spider-Man. But anyway, with that setup, I think that's a great way to honor him, but I think I would much rather actually get to be a voice in a game, which they've also done, the Kind of Funny crew. I would really like that, because I've had for a long time, and I really, at one of these points in my life, want to try and pursue it. I would love the idea of going towards being a voice actor. And I've always wanted to at least dabble in it to see if I'd be any good at it. I think I would, but sometimes you think a lot of things and they don't end up being true.
We could just make our own game and voice each other.
Yeah. And
that'll be number one on your resume.
We'd voice each other.
No, we would. Yeah, you're right. I would probably.
That would actually be funny. I'd be like, "Ooh, herdy-der, I'm Saul."
Stop revealing our skits live on air. It would be cool though to be an NPC in Dark Souls, like specifically one you could summon. So if they could put me, Miyazaki, if you're listening, I know you are. If you can put me as an NPC in Dark Souls, just SOL
with like 3 lines.
That's my name. No, you don't have to have lines. I could just pop up, get my Ultra Greatsword going on.
Wait, Bloodborne 2. You're one of the hunters out in the world.
Dude, that'd be ballin'. Put me in there.
How amazing. That would actually be really, really cool.
Trending on Twitter. Put me in the game.
Well, first of all, we got to make Bloodborne 2 a thing. Then we've got to make sure that you're included in Bloodborne 2.
It's going to happen.
As a random hunter.
I feel it in my heart.
Out and about in the in the realms. So, you know what?
Well, thank you, Sean, for the question. That's a good question. I like that one. Our last question from Twitter comes from our good buddy Kiki. He says, does your guys' personality change when you're gaming? For example, I become very competitive when playing Overwatch, but outside of gaming, I'm not a competitive person. Yes. Not the game, but the exact example he gave is exactly how I am, which is why it's so fun to trash talk and Smash, because I love it. It's just, I get into it and it's fun. I don't do that with like first person shooters. It's only Smash Brothers, which is weird.
I think it's
I get mad in first person shooters.
Yeah.
Like Gambit, you've heard me. I can't stand it in Gambit when somebody's doing something wrong. I am giving out all kinds of, I was gonna say slurs, but then I realized like, no, that's not, I was gonna say it's insults.
No.
Insults.
He essentially gets mad and starts calling the person who's obviously is normally, because we have 3 people, and there's a 4th that's added in who obviously doesn't really know the ins and outs of the game.
And why not blank? Expletives, no.
I mean, expletives.
I don't know why I was trying to say it with an extra syllable. Yeah, I'd call them expletives in the game. Very, very non-racial ones to clear up the slur thing.
Yeah, no, but he just calls them like stupid and asshole. I mean, I don't go farther than that, but essentially,
this is a family show. That's why I was not saying those specifically, sir.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like a donkey hole. I mean, if you think about it in that sense. So we're gonna make this. He calls them donkey holes. Look, Saul, it's not that deep. I'm just saying that ass is a donkey.
I'm not competitive at anything else out in the real world, though.
I mean, okay, I think he means in general. And what's funny is one time when we were playing Destiny and we were doing the raid, and Richard hopped in to the chat and was like, "You're so different in this party chat than you are in the podcast." And I was like, not really.
Well, like, we're playing games.
It's just I'm playing games and I'm not putting myself out for something that I'm trying to give my opinion on, which I normally, whenever I'm trying to give my opinion, I tend to be a little less jokey. I try and be a little cleaner and just get my opinion out so that...
Well, it's more relaxed, too, in a way.
It is. No, absolutely. And we're hanging out and joking and you're playing off of each other. Like me and you are playing off of each other, but that's nothing in comparison to a party chat with 5 other dudes who are all just joking and making fun of each other.
Yeah.
And running through a stressful situation like a raid.
I'm typically more like, I'm not going to say calm, but you can easily go see a good example of going to watch Saul plays. Like I'm leaning back in my chair. I got the mic arm, so like I'm leaned back and anyways, that was terrible. But yeah, it's just I'm much calmer, and I'm kind of just plotting out what I'm doing. And when I'm playing with my friends, it's just the same thing. It's just we get crazy, and when I get competitive, I like trash talking, but I do it in Smash Brothers. I do it in a very friendly manner. But if you make me mad in like Destiny, when it's a team-based thing and your team's not doing the work that they're supposed to be, like you're the worst person on the planet. And
your stakes are different and it's working together.
Exactly. Yeah,
instead of a different kind of competitive.
Yeah, it's like
sense.
in 1v1, I have myself to blame. But when it comes down to like a teammate, it's kind of like I'm doing my hardest. This dude's over here doing nothing. I've probably shouted that before.
No,
why'd you get the heavy ammo? I'm going to invade. Like, I get so mad.
Verbatim sentence that I've heard say at least
100
20 times.
No, 100 times.
Probably.
I listen, in Gambit, if I go over there, and I am pretty good at PvP in Destiny too. I get team wiped pretty commonly. If I go over there to grab that heavy ammo and it's gone, I know Brett and Joe and the other guy who plays this didn't take it. The other dude did. He'll jump through, and then I'll apologize. Like, obviously, we're in a party chat. He can't hear me. So, like, I'll just shout at him, and he obviously can't hear me. Don't think I'm bullying somebody online. That's not how this is working. This is me letting frustration out, and this guy will never know it. But I'll even apologize. I'll be like, you're going to go over there. You jump through the invasion portal. Why? You suck. And then he'll get like 2 kills. I'm like, never mind. He's doing pretty good. Like, I'll very quickly be like, yeah, never mind. He's a cool dude.
I mean, I can get competitive. It just depends on what I'm doing. Racing games, whenever I actually do online, I'm very competitive. And I guess that's just because the whole point of a racing game is to be competitive. A game like Destiny is a little different. Destiny, where it's at its best for me, is in PvE, where it doesn't really matter. As long as the person's genuinely pulling their weight, I don't care.
Right.
And even then, if I went into it knowing I was going to be carrying somebody, I don't care either. I'm just kind of like, oh, whatever, we're just playing.
Gambit's the one thing in Destiny that I found.
Raids and Gambit.
Well, I was gonna say even in raids, since it's more cooperative, you can tell them like you're sucking it up. Stop. Or we're only raiding with friends.
I mean, yeah, to be true.
So, which just by the way, I'm gonna pre-apologize in advance, Kiki and Vince. And whoever decides to raid with us tonight, if we raid, I'm going to be very harsh. Be like, we are doing it wrong. Stop it.
It's part of the raid. You've got to kind of like...
I'm not really like that. I'm just thinking of one experience that we all had, me and Brett.
I know.
One particular person that we used to play with. Boy, was he the dullest piece of metal in the world. He'd be like, how do you do this? It's this. You do this, and this. Oh, okay, that's easy. Why are you dead? I don't know. Why am I dead? Did you do that? No.
Yeah, and that's so I get at that too. I think I get definitely a little more irritable and frustrated depending on what's going on, but it has to be high tense situations. Like racing games they tend to be tense once you start a race and you're moment to moment. So I guess that's part of it. Anytime where something kind of ups the ante of what you're supposed to be doing, definitely a raid, because whether
it's
you
time consuming,
whether you succeed or not, and how much fun you have throughout the time you had is entirely rested on the competency of the group of people that you're with at the moment.
Yeah, and that's why I really enjoy the new raid. I haven't played it yet, but you know the new raid's only like 2 hours long at most.
Yeah, it seems a little shorter, and it's not so mechanically.
It's like Crota's End. It's very short and sweet, but yet mechanical, somewhat mechanical.
And mechanically, it's far easier to figure out. The Leviathan raid was very puzzle solvy.
Yes, and the Last Wish, from what I've played,
I actually love,
is just amazing.
Yeah,
we really need to start from the start and go through it all.
Oh, I've technically done the whole raid, from what I understand.
I've done it piece by piece.
Yeah, same. Not in one sitting.
No,
but
that's
I've done
all.
it. Yeah,
I want to do it one sitting, like I did King's Fall.
Yeah, I'm with you. But yeah, I mean, I think we definitely changed our personality, but it tends to be towards the competitive side, and not even the competitive side, I guess. I think it just tends to be towards how much of my time and my life am I staking into this that's potentially getting ruined because someone's not pulling their weight. So that's very specific times.
Yeah, in the specific example that I was talking about, we had a guy who joined, wouldn't listen to us, said he understood it when he didn't, and then we sat there and we did it over and over and over again for like 2 hours, maybe even more.
Yeah.
And by the end, we made no progress. We wasted 2 hours of our life trying to do this, and it just didn't work. And by the end, he's like, all right, guys, well, I'm going to head out. We were all like, bye, dude. It was like, oh, thank God he's gone. He doesn't listen to the podcast. He has no idea who we really are.
I don't know these things, but I don't care either way. It was frustrating.
I was going to say, it's interesting, though, because technically he's a friend of the podcast. He's a friend of the podcast.
I know that the person who's the friend probably knows who we're talking about.
He knows exactly who we're talking about. He will DM us on Twitter and be like, why y'all talking about my boy like that?
I mean, I don't care. I don't have any ill will towards him. It was just that one experience. That was so.
We've played with him since. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it might have been before you actually got Destiny again, but it also could have been after.
Yeah, I played with him since. It was just a really frustrating night.
Well, take us into those Facebook questions.
Facebook question from Mr. Josh Shoot, who thankfully posted it on there when I was dying of kidney stones. I appreciate that.
Thank you, my boy Josh.
He asked, what games, or what would you guys say is your most unpopular opinion with games? I think we've answered a form of this, but I'm going to roll with it anyway. He says, for example, I actually think that Final Fantasy 15 was a fantastic game. Sure, it's flawed, but most games are. I would take Final Fantasy 15, here's where it gets spicy, over everything after 8 except for 10. I think that 9 is an extremely overrated game as well.
Hey, Josh, you need to play 14, my boy.
MMO ones are a little different.
They are. They're in a league of their own.
I'm sure in this particular set, he probably means that 11 and 14 are skewed outside of the boundaries of 9. Which I mean, I'm gonna be as much as I like 8, and I actually am a proponent of 8. I think it's a great game. 9 is a very solid game, and it's interesting to me that you don't like 9 when 9 and 10 play so similarly to each other. It's like I said, it's just an interesting thing to me. But I tend to agree that there are plenty of opinions that people have that don't necessarily roll. A recent opinion that I think is not necessarily the opinion across the board would be that Darksiders 3 was actually a great game. I mean, it was. If you set your expectations to what the game we always knew was going to be, which was going to be a mid-tier AA game from a series that's not been around in a long time. And you look at what it did good and look at also what it did bad. It's a game that easily was very enjoyable, fun. And if you were a fan of the series, it did exactly what fans of the series should have wanted. And I also think because Darksiders does this thing where every game plays slightly differently anyway, though I would argue this is probably the most different Darksiders yet. They do this thing where, depending on what you like in a game, if you really like dungeons a lot and you like very straightforward action-adventure gameplay, then you could play Darksiders 1, which is very Zelda, God of War inspired, more towards the Zelda dungeon style. Then you can play Darksiders 2, which is more RPG loot, inspired, with a little bit quicker. And it's also got a lot of platforming in it, and some people thought the platforming wasn't great. I don't think it was bad. So in my opinion, I actually thought it was pretty cool, and it had a lot of influence from things like Prince of Persia, where you'll spin around on columns and jump from them and stuff like that. But then it also gave you that power fantasy that Diablo tends to give you, with rolling through and getting that legendary item that you equip, and you're like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. And I think that for the shortcomings that game had, those parts of the gameplay made up for it. And then I felt the same way about 3. 3 was very tight, knew what it was trying to do, wasn't trying to be overly narrative fueled, but just enough to get you through the sections and have some impact on the entire universe. And then, of course, set up beautifully for another game in the franchise. I think it was a great game, and I think that from what I've seen from a lot of people, that's not necessarily the general consensus on it, though it's hard to tell when you're in a kind of weird bubble on Twitter and Discord with a few people that have actually played it. So I don't know, Saul, what are other ones you can think of? I'm in the mindset, real quick, that I think Saul really thinks 15 is a terrible game. 15 is just not.
15 is a terrible game. 15
is not the worst game I've ever played. 15 is not even necessarily a bad game, but it's a bad game when you compare it to other staples of the franchise. I think that while I enjoyed 15 certainly more than any of the 13 games, of which I've played all of them for at least 10 hours, at least, of the 13 trilogy. I don't know why that is, and I think some of it I know is that I like the gameplay a little bit better, and despite the fact that 15 has you hold the button to do combat, I never played it that way, so it didn't feel so dumbed down to me personally, but I know some people definitely had that feeling, and if I would have played it that way, I would have had a little bit more of a harsh feeling of it as well. But I played it just tapping to attack, where it essentially played like Kingdom Hearts. The story being disjointed and not necessarily making entire sense was a big problem, and the big empty open world that was overly sized was a problem. But I do agree that it's not the worst game, and I enjoyed my time with it to platinum. But Saul, what's one of yours?
Dark Souls 2 is a good game. It's a good Dark Souls game.
We talked about that on the reader mail.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot, actually, with me. That's a very common thing. That's like my go-to unpopular opinion about gaming. Also, whoa.
Now, I guess I could also say the order, but I've spoken at length about that game.
Twilight Princess is one of the worst Zelda games. That seems to get some people angry. It really is.
Interesting.
well, right alongside Skyward Sword, because that's also a really bad Zelda game. But man, there was one more thing, and I didn't realize it was unpopular because of how bad the game was. I remember I said it in GameStop, and somebody was like, "Are you serious?"
Well, speaking of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, I don't think is a great game.
That seems like that's just it seems like 50-50 on that game.
You know what? At this point, yes. At launch, if you said anything bad about the game, it was like a blasphemy. But now it's gotten to the people who didn't really love it or kind of talk about it these days. And I think some people who were high on it initially kind of got to the point where they're like, wait a minute, this game isn't as great as I thought it was.
Oh, Kingdom Hearts 2 being better than 1.
I think that most people think that, actually.
I have talked to the minority of that group then.
Man, I thought I was one of the only people that liked 1 more than 2.
It seems that 2 is universally hated, especially for the first 2 hours of it, but that's understandable.
Oh, well, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Definitely if that was your first game of the series.
The prologue of that game is whew.
Hard to play when you've already done it once.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's it. What about our last question on the good
Our last question
Facebook?
that comes from Mr. Josh Ho here. Let me scroll back up. It's at the very top. Says, and this is actually a fun one. I think we've done something in the vein of this before. Hypothetically, Sony officially announces a PS Vita 2 coming next year. No details. Name 5 launch games you'd hope for, along with features you'd love to see as well. And he says, not sure if this would count as a podcast question. This is my first post on the page. Hey, man. We're taking it, but we normally, just so you're aware, we do normally have a post that we try and have everybody respond into. That way we can just more easily find them. But we'll gladly
we don't want to lose
this.
them all in the fray, because that's happened to us a couple times because some people on Twitter didn't respond to the right thing. But
Saul's attacking people over here. Real quick, Josh Ayers says full backward compatibility with all PS1 through PS4, including Vita and PSP, but that would never happen. I think through PS4 is a big ask. I think all backwards compatibility from PS1... Well, and it has to be reasonable, right? It's not going to play disc. So I think the first things first has to be that it's going to be backwards compatible with everything that's allowed to be digital.
That would work.
Sad rule of it is that some things just can't be digital, and there's nothing we can do to fix that.
Boy, if I could play Bloodborne on the go.
Here's the biggest problem with that is that the PS2 library has to become digital now.
Some of it is, though.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the majority of it's not. The majority of it came from PS2 classics on PS3 and then PS2 classics.
There is a sizable PS2 digital library.
Yeah, and as long as they were all playable on PS Vita 2 or PSV2, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, we did a whole episode of this.
Really early on.
Good buddy Josh. I'm trying to think, because I had a list of launch titles in my head of what I wanted. It's going to be completely different from that if you go back and watch it. But I'm going to go ahead and say, if we want original games... or, sequels or whatever, or game set universes.
So what we mean is no re-releases.
Right, no re-releases.
So we're talking about entirely from the ground up for Vita.
I would like to see... That's a hard question. I'm really trying to think of what is something new yet familiar enough to put on a handheld that would come at launch of this thing.
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
My first things first came from mainly that the Vita version of this entry into the series is just one of my favorite, and it played so freaking well. Little Big Planet, I think it's been gone for some period of time. 3 left a little bit of a sour taste and a little disappointment in fans' mouths. So I think if you get the same people from Tarsier, and I think it was Double Fine Productions, I could be wrong on that, that made the Vita version to come back together and work on another Vita entry. And the only problem I would say fix is make level editing be 2-player like it is on the console versions, or more, even up to 4 players. I think that would be great, and I think it would be a good way to bring that series back into some relevance in a way. We always think about it this way. The 3DS, right, and even the Switch to some extent, as far as you want to consider it a handheld. The Nintendo games or Nintendo consoles have always done really well based around the kids adopting it, and that's a very important market that you do have to go to some extent. Little Big Planet has always helped bridge that gap between something that kids want to play, and that makes a lot of sense for them to do. So you tap into kids market, and you tap a little bit into what you've seen people praise Astrobot about, which is that it feels like the most non-Nintendo made Nintendo platformer. It feels like Nintendo made it, even though they didn't. So I think if you utilize some of that and pull those over, and I would even utilize that to be, I don't know what the game would be called, but I think if you let the team that made Astrobot Rescue Mission for VR make an entirely new from the ground up and handheld platforming game, that would be another smart move. Have 2 platforming games that are easy to play into kids that adults would still enjoy. That's definitely one of them.
So Astrobot, or well, Little Big Planet.
Little Big Planet, and then something from the Astrobot team.
Right.
One that would be back for me, and I think this is also a smart move early on, Mod Nation Racers, or some form of a kart racing game.
Well, I was going to say, if it has backwards compatibility, it needs to be a sequel.
Well,
right?
I'm talking about a sequel.
Okay.
Yeah. Or even Little Big, like, again, if we don't get Little Big Planet up front as a game of its own, then Little Big Planet karting. Do something to try and tie into those worlds. And then I think that you would definitely be smart to come back with another handheld Uncharted, just because it did so well. And I don't know who you'd let do it. Bend did an amazing job. If they had the flexibility and ability to do it, let them do it.
Ooh, Final Fantasy Tactics.
Man, that'd be a great one from Square.
Yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics would be. That's all I really want.
And then I have one that I think is a great answer
because, like, if I'm gonna have backwards compatibility
that we never got. So go ahead though.
Oh no, I was going to finish this up real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. You're fine.
If we got backwards compatibility with all the digital games from those consoles, we have. I'm going to assume every feature of the Vita going forward, such as remote play. Realistically, that right there is the perfect system. I don't need launch games because there's so many games that I would be able to play on the go. Persona 5, Bloodborne.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you throw in a new Final Fantasy Tactics. Woo, boy.
Yeah.
I'd be sold.
Yeah, and War of the Lions is a great game.
I do want full Switch style controllers though. Like, meaning I want
R2, L2.
R2, L2, and clickable. Well, never mind.
Yeah, we'll go back to features on that particular thing. But my last game that I think would be a great one, and I think it'd be easy enough to design it in a way that would work on a handheld, would be the game that we never got on Vita, though it was talked about at least a little bit in the Ben studio.
Oblivion? Oh.
Infamous.
Oh, Oblivion was PSP.
Yeah, now, hey, if Bethesda weren't in a crap house right now,
I'm telling you, dude.
I still think
technically you still can. PS3 library, digital.
Yeah, and that's if backwards compatibility is going.
That's what I'm saying. The launch games,
and Skyrim.
I'm just going to play all the old games I wanted to play on Vita and PSP on this.
Yeah, but I would also like to see the technology utilized in a way where you're seeing what it can do from its own raw power. And I think that it'd be really cool to get a handheld. Because that's the problem with Switch, right? Is that it didn't even get its own thing. All you're getting to do is play Skyrim on the go now, which is cool. I'm not hating. It's just it would have been even more of a get, in my opinion, if they would have been able to get Bethesda to make a side entry into the Elder Scrolls series like that. So yeah, I think the other thing we've talked about is the full controller support, like clickable analog sticks.
Minimum 720p glass screen.
Yeah, and go small with it. I mean,
no bezels.
No bezels. Utilize as much screen as you can. No touchscreen.
Well, never mind. If
backward compatibility.
That means we have to have a back touchscreen.
And it's cheap. Now, here's the thing with the back touch panel. You could probably do what we've talked about with the PlayStation controller that minimizes it into a tiny thing.
Yeah.
You can either minimize it on the back or put it on the front where you can at least input when you have to.
Are we wanting carts?
Yeah.
Or are we wanting full digital only console?
No. Okay. I want carts. Full digital would work to an extent, but it also comes down to
PS Vita Go.
PS Vita Go, yeah.
2.
But it'd be obviously a far more palatable console or handheld console in this generation because there's internet's ready for it and games are being added digital far more often. Essentially, we're there now. I mean, you could go all digital for the past few years, whereas when the PSP Go came out, you couldn't. Plenty of games missed digital releases completely. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep being one of them. So any other major features you'd want to see? I think that obviously remote play would benefit from the full controller.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you take a Vita, you take a Switch, and you put them together with the backwards compatibility, and that's perfect right there. Day one buy. I don't even care if it's plastic screen like the Switch has. Day one buy.
I'd rather it not be a plastic
I'm just saying,
screen.
That's how much I don't care.
But I'm still with you.
Because you throw a glass screen protector on, you don't know the difference.
That's true. When I had my Switch, I put that glass screen protector on instantly.
Yep, I do too.
Because I was like, I don't like this plastic screen. This isn't difference.
Cool. But that's a good question, Josh.
Yeah. And
that's
if you
a good question for your
want to go back and find that episode, it's quite old. I think it's in the 30s. I don't know. It could be even earlier than that. But we've definitely talked ad length about it and definitely gotten far more into it from a spec perspective as well. But in case you're not worried about it.
So I didn't realize we could actually Google our name plus Vita, and this actually pops up on Google. So it is episode 6. So our 6th episode. Go back and look at when we were little babies.
Man, I feel like we did it again, but we were definitely little babies, and I was fat in the face. Okay, time to move into the main topic. Saul, don't do it. Oh,
our old I can't even do it.
Well, this isn't an ASMR podcast, so Saul, let's move forward with the main topic. And the main topic for this week is, of course, kind of recapping and going over the Game Awards announcements. So from there, Saul watched about half of it here, and he didn't go back and watch the other half because we talked about it. Not necessarily, but half of the parts that mattered and more weird musical performances. So from an announcement standpoint, you watched about half of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and then we talked about the other ones. So I think that, we're kind of going to go over and recap everything that we saw on there and kind of talk about our feelings with it. And then I think Saul would even agree to some extent with what he did see. I think it's worth talking about the fact that one of the worries I had and what I mentioned last week is that they have a hard time, and I get that some of it's necessary, but they've always done this thing where they show a bunch of unnecessary things. They cut off some slack. They didn't have some weird shit guy in the background this year trying to do a bunch of funny stuff. Though comedy's not a problem, I think trying to do comedy is...
They did that last year?
Yeah, I think it was last year or the year before. I can't honestly remember exactly what it was.
Last year.
They made a joke about it being like they made him into a Mortal Kombat character.
No, yeah, I know.
Which was okay, but they kept showing over and over, and that was what made it annoying.
Honestly, I think any video game company that does that on stage for any period of time is annoying. People did that during E3, like the Bethesda thing. They did on Bethesda Showcase right before Fallout. They had Pete Hines with the other two people out there. They had like Post-it notes on them or something. That's not funny. Stop it.
I get what they're trying to do.
No, I get it. It's entertaining, I would say, but I would rather it not be there.
Well, and here's the problem: they never go to the logical end to me. Remember what we said? Like the way that you actually made that funny was have him come back out. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was.
What the scenario was, yeah.
But we essentially had it where it's like come back out saying that he like killed her because it wasn't actually her or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's right. It was a mimic from Prey.
It was because they were saying
they had a stupid sticky note that said not a mimic.
Yeah, and I thought it'd be funny if he came out with the sticky note in hand with like a little bit of blood splatter on it. Was like, sorry guys, and like that would be a good way to make that go even further and actually tie into your game. But it was like it was a little too shallow. But we're gonna go ahead and go into it. One of the first things that's actually fairly interesting, and it's not on PlayStation, but we're gonna cover it. I want to talk about it anyway because I'm curious if it's gonna be on PlayStation anyway. But the first thing that really came from the when the show started, not the pre-show, was. Well, actually, the very first thing, and this is pretty interesting, was that they had Reggie Fils-Aimé, Phil Spencer, and Sean Layden all come up on screen.
Crossplay for all consoles. That's what everybody thought the second they walked up there.
It seems so much like that's what they're hinting at, but they never said these words exactly. So instead, it was a good speech, and I actually think it was something that was important to have at a Game Awards thing like this. It reminds me back of what Sony actually did with Kevin Butler back in like 2009 or
Kevin
10.
Butler. He was fantastic.
It was so great. But you remember his gamer speech that he had?
Yeah.
Where it's like, it doesn't matter what achievements or trophies you cling to or whatever, we're all gamers. I think it's smart to do that when you have so much. I don't want to just say console wars because I think the console wars in and of themselves are healthy. I think that...
Well, of course, competition's always healthy for companies.
And I think that pulling it and labeling it under the console wars and just looking critically at the things that both companies are doing is smart. What gets to an issue is when people go too crazy and are just fanboying it up. And there's always that level where people just automatically throw dissent onto the opposing side and say that they can't have done anything competent because they're part of that company. And I think that's a dangerous mindset because, of course, a lot of the time they tend not to say anything when Sony also does make a misstep, which happens. And that's just coming from our side. So the Sony fans that refuse to cede ground when Sony does make a bad move, like we've talked a lot about Sony making a bad move in our opinion with the censorship, specifically in Japan. I honestly don't even have a problem with the censorship here because it makes more sense here than it does the place where this originally sprung from, which I think is a very odd way to handle your business. And a lot of people have obviously agreed with that and are trying to get Sony to do something about it. Whether that happens, we'll see. But I think that the console wars in general are an okay thing to have, but blind fanboyism, because I am a fanboy, but I'm not one that is going to completely ignore when the other side does something great. So it's cool to have all of them together, and it does seem like it might be hinting towards the idea of a more across-the-board crossplay, at least going into the next generation. We will see. Like I say, I never stood against crossplay, only that I supported Sony not opting into it as a business decision which ultimately they have to make the smartest business decisions that they think they need in order to stay around, because even if it means that Sony looks like a bad guy but makes enough money to keep floating around for another generation, I'd rather have Sony for longer in the games that I love from their studios than have them lose out on a lot of money and potentially go under. Not that they would. That's obviously worst case scenario, but it's, you think about it, sometimes business decisions have to be made and you have to respond to them. But Saul, I mean, what's your take on that? Good or bad?
No, I liked it. It was a nice moment. They got together on the red carpet outside. After that, they took more pictures. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think it's good to let people see the heads of these studios being civil with each other, or the heads of these companies being
I hope
civil.
it put some people in their place.
Yeah. Next up, and I actually thought this was really interesting, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 was revealed. Here's the catch. It's only on Switch. Now,
yeah, that is pretty.
They have not specifically said whether this is timed exclusive or what. I don't think we've gotten more information on this yet, or at least not that I've seen, but I've not been following as closely as I probably should have this weekend due to being down. But the interesting information on this was actually that it's being developed by Team Ninja.
Which is pretty cool, actually. I really like these games.
Yeah, I like the games already, but I think putting a team like Team Ninja behind it puts more faith in people to play it and go, okay, it's probably going to have very solid gameplay. The graphical look for that style has always been fine to me. I mean, it's something that goes towards the more comic booky nature of the series, which lets it lean heavier on its art style than having to lean so heavy on ridiculous raw power graphics. Instead, they're trying to just give you a good look with the style that they're going for, and I think that plays well into them. But I'm cool with that. I hope, in my opinion, to see this be a timed exclusive that we eventually get onto the other consoles. But if we don't, then it's honestly a good move from Nintendo's part, because they need this third-party support, even if it's third-party exclusives. The more that they can do that, then they start to kind of step on Sony's toes. And for competition's sake, that's actually an interesting thing. And it might make Sony bite back that much harder and try and get more third-party exclusives secured for them. So
Neo was on Xbox, right?
No, PC.
I wonder if Neo could come to Switch.
If it's not on Xbox, I really doubt it. But I don't know.
That'd be sick.
So it's one of those weird things where Sony published the game, but it doesn't look like they published it with exclusivity rights, unless it was a clause about being exclusive on consoles only, and that's why it was able to come to PC. And if you remember what we've seen of Neo 2 so far, looks to be exclusive as well.
Yeah, so far that we know, and I'm excited for that game.
Now, we've not seen a lot about it, but what we did get to see at Sony's E3 earlier this year did imply that it was going to be exclusive, which would make sense considering all things. Now, it may be, again, exclusive to consoles with a PC release, and I think that makes sense and is fine. Though I wonder if they'll get a full-on exclusivity like Neo did, where Neo on PC came later.
Yeah.
So
Ubisoft dropping the big bomb of the love child in between Fallout 76 and Rage 2. That is Far Cry New Dawn, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, you skipped the one that I think is actually pretty interesting. But that's a pretty interesting one. Ancestors is the one where the creator of the Assassin's Creed franchise is coming back and making a game that they showed gameplay of, which is essentially the little bit of gameplay they showed looks like working through.
The
primitive apes that are working their way up toward humanity.
I did see this.
And it's an interesting idea.
That snake was... It looks like a survival horror game in a way.
In a weird way. It's an odd-looking game, and it's the thing that caught me the most is that, if I recall, and I didn't actually look it up, he fought Ubisoft at one point for the ability to get this game back that he was working on, and I can't remember what it was titled, and I can't think of what to use to Google it, but he was working on a separate title that was supposed to be, like, in his mind, where the Assassin's Creed franchise should have ended up. And I can't remember what it was called, but so it was interesting to see that this is the next game from him instead of that one. And this may just be a stepping stone to it. Like, he's really wanting, now that he's got that one back legally, he wants to make sure he's making it the best game that he can. But who knows? So this is from the creator of Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed.
So super interesting of a concept. So it looks fun.
Yep. And it says take you on a 10 million year journey. So how that works, I do not know. The little bit they showed was interesting, though looks like it's going to be towards a very specific audience, in my opinion. I don't know for sure. Supergiant, which is the people who made Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre, are back with Hades, which looks to be of course, the same type of game they've always been making from a stylistic standpoint, but it's playing with Greek mythology, which is pretty cool. And then we're back to where Saul was talking about Far Cry New Dawn, which is an interesting take on things. Number one, because they immediately spoiled, even on stage, the ending of Far Cry 5, which is a game that hadn't even come out a full year ago.
Yeah, that was weird.
And then but here, because they've already done it, I'm just going to follow suit. I mean, if you saw it, because of Far Cry 5's ending, which does end with a nuke hitting Montana, and because of how nukes are, it's obviously very widespread. This is some years after that. And it's essentially taking the Far Cry 5 world and making it somewhere between Fallout and I'd say a little bit closer to Rage with the crazy weaponry that they're going toward, and I think a little bit of the sense of what they're doing.
The colors.
Yeah, it's releasing...
Very muted and then very vibrant colors.
Yeah, or very vibrant against very muted to give it like a weird pop. But this is also releasing a full year. So this is releasing in February, which is 1 full year after Far Cry 5 came out. So this is obviously something they had planned very close after, if they didn't already have a side team working on it, just so that you get your expectations hit. This is going to be the same map as 5. It's just essentially going to be a reskin of the map. They're going to change stuff around to obviously look like it's affected by the Fallout. And of course, that makes it easier for them to roll through because they're not even designing a new map, and they're utilizing some of the same characters. It looks like we're going to have Father Joseph in this game due to the way that the game does end in the first one. So he is back in this, and the trailer they showed is very cryptic and interesting. But it looks fun, and I'll give them this. This is probably... Far Cry has tended to be a series that, with its side games that aren't necessarily main numbered entries, they do a lot of interesting stuff, and this is a testament to that, because we've already seen Far Cry go Neon Tech Future with Far Cry Blood Dragon, which was one of the add-ons for 3, which was really cool. We saw Far Cry Primitive, which was taking all the way back into the Stone Age and trying to spin the gameplay on that sense, which was also very fun to me. I liked it a lot, despite the fact that it wasn't perfect. And we're seeing that again here. And all of these were very much reskins of the same maps. Blood Dragon was a reskin of 3. Primitive was a reskin of the map from 4. And then we're seeing that again here. But I'm cool with this, and I'm going to get it. It looks fun enough, and that's cool. And it's coming out just early enough that I feel like I can get it, beat it, and have time before Rage 2 comes out, and that they're different enough games anyway that I won't feel like I'm getting bursted out with this post-apocalyptic world sense. So
yeah. So I guess I kind of had a realization. I think anybody watching us, do you think they've watched? Like, do we need to go through all of these?
Not necessarily all of them. I'm just kind of talking about the ones that were
favorites, because
that's fine.
I don't want to like tire people out.
Yeah, that's fine. Next thing up, I think is obvious to talk about is Crash Team Racing.
Yeah. I'll be getting that on Switch. If it comes. I'm sure it will.
It will. It's already been talked about. Okay. Crash Team Racing Remaster comes to consoles in June. So it's called Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, but it is a remake of the PS1 game that is amazing and so many people love. And it's one of those games where, for a lot of people, it's like, well, did you play Mario Kart or did you play Crash Team Racing? And I think a lot of people who actually had a PS1 know that.
Another game I'm going to run the gauntlet on. I'll beat all you fools. Including you. Don't laugh. You're going to get it. I ain't never played a Crash Racing game before. Well, maybe. I think I did when I was young. You're still going to get it.
We'll see.
He ain't baiting my challenge. This ain't
We'll
fun.
see. No, we'll see. Because trust me, I'm fairly positive I'm going to just leave you in the dust.
It's been a long time since we streamed something like Dead Cells or Death Gambit. Yep. So we could probably stream Smash, honestly.
We probably could.
I wonder if we could get Corey and Blaze and everybody in a chat and stream that.
I don't know, but we will look at that later. Let's see if y'all care about Dead by Daylight, considering that it was a free PS Plus game. They have a new chapter that they're doing that has a new killer, which actually looks like an original killer I've never seen before, which I'll give them that. That's interesting. And a new map. As of course, it looks like they have all the different killers that in that game, like the Saw killer and stuff. There is a Monster Hunter style game called Dauntless that actually has been around for a while that looks to be coming to Switch, Xbox One, PS4, and mobile next year. So if that's something that you're interested in, go check that out. It looks really good, and I think a lot of games are going to start trying to do that Monster Hunter style again, because you saw that with the Vita when it first came out, we learned that Monster Hunter had switched over to Nintendo. A lot of people were immediately like, oh man, how are we going to fill this gap? And then
Sony was like, boom, Soul Sacrifice.
Yeah, and Soul Sacrifice is, in my opinion, is probably the best, though I would think a couple of people would probably argue.
You mean better than Monster Hunter?
No. I'm saying the best Monster Hunter clone.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Though I actually would say of the Monster Hunters on PSP, I did like Soul Sacrifice more.
Isn't God Hand?
Not God Hand, but God Eater.
God Eater, yeah.
Yeah, but there's another one, and I'm skipping on it now. What's the one with the last one that they did with the Panopticons and stuff?
Freedom
Wars.
Yeah, Freedom Wars.
Yeah, Freedom Wars is also arguably one of the ones that people liked, and I do think it was a very interesting take on the idea. But let's move through this one. Was also very interesting and missed this one, but went back and saw the trailer. The Last Campfire. So Hello Games, which is the developer for No Man's Sky, in case you didn't know, is finally coming out with another game. I guess this makes sense, right? They need to do something that's not just No Man's Sky, but they've also removed themselves far enough from No Man's Sky that I think that they'd be able to, at this point, make a new game and not necessarily carry all the negative weight, because they fixed, not only are they away from the launch of No Man's Sky, they've also done a lot of work to fix it in post.
They have, yeah. So we always say kudos to them because they continued on it. So I don't play the game that much, but I'm always pretty thankful for that they kept that up for the fans that did.
Yep. And now going back to post-apocalyptic stuff a little bit, but not quite. Obsidian, we talked about this last week of what we thought might be one of the announcements. Obsidian's game that they're doing with 2K's new publishing wing, which is called Private Division, which Private Division, just in case y'all aren't aware yet, is 2K's new division that they're doing that's going to be a publisher for mid-tier range games. So I think that's probably smart, and this looks like a great game to fit that area.
Looks like the best game they revealed.
Yeah, it's essentially...
It is.
Yeah, it looks really good. It's essentially what we talked about.
New Vegas, BioShock.
And maybe even because there's space travel in it. So I'd give it that too. It has a little bit of a Borderlands take on it, but I'd almost say maybe even, I don't want to say Mass Effect from a stylistic standpoint, but moving from planet to planet, which it looks like you'll be able to do.
Dude, I'm so excited for
it's going to be interesting. It looks great, and it's exactly what we talked about.
I may get this game on PC.
Obsidian essentially moved themselves away. Now, here's what would be really interesting. Do Obsidian start mod support? And put mod support in this game on consoles.
I'm sure they do.
That'd be very
it's gonna
smart.
Be a slap to the face. Maybe not on consoles, but they'll certainly support it.
It'd be smart, right?
And go
if they did on consoles, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they won't be going towards paid mods like Bethesda did. That's for certain.
Well, here's what's interesting about it. The trailer very heavily leaned into Bethesda's woes as of late by saying the original creator of Fallout. And then saying the developer of Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is one of those games that it's one of the most beloved entries in the franchise, and definitely for longtime fans because it went back more towards the original games and harkened back to a lot of that stuff while also utilizing the Bethesda engine. So
they had no real plans to reveal that, and they were just like a week before Game Awards, they were seeing all this Fallout stuff happening, and Obsidian was like, better call Jeff. We got to get a trailer. I guarantee that's why all those Fallout things are in there, because those are obvious jabs at
I
Bethesda.
think that they probably were going to go ahead and show it at Game Awards anyway, but what probably happened is that I guarantee you they probably changed the trailer and because of all the Bethesda mess it makes sense again to capitalize off of where Bethesda is falling, and it happens to just be with a series, a Fallout, which is a franchise that Obsidian actually has had some work with, so they can kind of double capitalize on it. Not only is it a similar type of game, but it's also from somebody who's worked in the field before. So I think that's really cool, and it looks amazing. If you've not gone to check it out, do so.
I've watched the trailer like 5 times already.
Graphically, it looks very impressive, and it looks fun, and it looks like exactly what people who are fans of New Vegas would want.
There's 2 other first-person shooters. Oh, well, I don't know if we know one of them is first-person shooter. The other one that's like BioShocky?
It just depends on what you're talking about. That's coming out.
Yeah, real soon. It's
that's BioShocky.
Yeah, it was announced earlier this year or late last year.
I can't remember the name of one. It's not necessarily BioShock. I guess it looks kind of like BioShock, but it looks like if you took BioShock and Metro and kind of shoved them together, and it's got a weird
Atomic Heart.
Yeah, Atomic Heart. Thank you.
Because between Outer Worlds and Atomic Heart, and then Witchfire, which I still haven't heard much about that game. At least I think I have that name right. It's the one they have unveiled. Maybe it's not Witchfire. No, it is. Yeah, Witchfire from the Game Awards last year, which we haven't heard nothing about, to my knowledge. That game looks dope.
Yeah, this does look really good.
So I'm excited for these 3 kind of like dark yet what I'm going to assume is heavy narrated first-person shooter games, because it just looks amazing. They all do.
Yeah.
It's a good time to be in for...
Man, first-person games are just really coming along in ways that are like, a lot of people, when you think first-person, they immediately think first-person shooters.
Yeah.
But man, I'm telling you...
RPG elements in first-person games. Dude, in Destiny, it works so well to like use the Hunter Dodge or to use the Titan Slam. And these aren't first-person mechanics that normally are in games. That
to
are
be fair, the Titan
related.
Slam does pull back into third person.
No, I'm talking about technically... I'm talking about the shoulder charge.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. The melee.
I am getting the names up. Ballistic Slam is the new one. I'm talking about like when you shoulder charge.
Yeah, shoulder charge. Yeah, it feels really good.
I think that's just called shoulder charge. But yeah, but boy.
Yeah, that definitely looks great. And I think that I agree. I forgot about Witchfire. That's actually, that does look really cool. But Atomic Heart definitely looks amazing. If you've not seen it and you're a fan of that kind of open world style, but with a Bioshocky kind of take on it. It's like, I say, Bioshock and Metro together is what it makes me feel like. If you kind of take both of those and move them together towards something like that. Let's see, there's a couple other things. Atlas is a new gigantic survival MMO from the team that made Ark Survival Evolved. That doesn't leave me with a lot of confidence in it, because Ark is still a very broken game, and it's a very poorly optimized game. Psychonauts 2, and Psychonauts 1's a great game. It's really a unique game. Psychonauts 2 is coming out next year is what it looks like right now, and it got a new trailer, so if you're interested in that series at all, go check out the trailer.
Is that going to be on
I won't
Switch?
say much more. Right now, I don't think so.
Okay.
It looks like right now it's going to be PlayStation, PC, and I think Xbox.
I'll still probably pick it up for PlayStation.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 11 was shown. They
Yeah.
had Ed Boon come out. They didn't show enough for me. 10 lost its magic so quickly.
Oh, dude, within like a day.
Yeah, whereas 9 I played for so long.
I played 9 for almost a year straight.
But 10 did away with a lot of the things that 9 made me love about it, which was like tag team battles and like 2-player battles where you could pull in and switch out between characters. That was gone, and that was something I really loved. And it just, something about the competitive scene around it wasn't nearly as fun. We played Mortal Kombat 9 so much competitively.
Yeah, we did too.
And had like house parties around it and had people come over and fight. And that was something that I just never found with that game. It was a shame. Anyway, a couple of other things we'll talk about here. BioWare did their Dragon Age 4 teaser, which was kind of, everybody knew it was coming to an extent, but what I liked that they did about it is that it was a teaser that didn't even say Dragon Age 4. It just, if you knew Dragon Age, you knew it was Dragon Age.
Yeah.
And it was.
I just watched it and I'm like, here them are elves.
Yeah.
They're very dead elves. It's really cool.
Yeah. So I mean, that game is still a far way away, I would bet.
I'm not too excited from off that trailer alone. I hate CGI trailers for reveals. It doesn't really do much for me unless it's an actual game like announcement. We all knew Dragon Age 4 has been rumored for like a year now to come out, and I never played Inquisition. 2 was pretty decent.
Inquisition was far different. 2 is the oddball of the group. 2 was like very fast, action oriented, fast paced.
That's Origins, right?
No. Origins was the first. Dragon Age Origins is the first entry.
What is 2 subname?
Dragon Age 2.
Okay, I was going to say, because you're describing it, I'm like, yeah, this game was not fast. I played Origins.
Origins let you take individual control, and it was kind of like you'd attack, but then you could partner your team up to come and help you. Okay. And then Inquisition's thing that they did was they took the...
it's like MMO combat.
Inquisitions took the idea from Mass Effect where you could have the top-down view. So it would pause the whole game, pull up, and you could essentially go through and look at what you're going to do. And I can't remember the word they used for it. But
real-time turn-based?
I mean, essentially, but it was like a specific view that you would utilize, see where everything's at, and then you'd go into battle and do what you needed to do. And it was interesting, but the game just never clicked with me. Donovan really liked it.
I have to see it on sale all the time. Yeah, like less than $10. So I was like, I might as well pick it up one day. It's on digital sale.
I still have it on PC. I may just go back and play it one of these days all the way through. It looks really pretty. I'll give it that. Next thing up that was, which is nice to see, Rage 2 launches on May 14th. Still looks super fun. Something about the way they're doing shooting in that game just really is clicking
satisfying
with me, dude.
Yeah.
It reminds me so much of Killzone mixed with Doom. And I'm so down for that combination of shooting. And the world just looks fun. I think they've done a good job with taking the style being a little bit more silly and off the wall than they did with Rage 1, which was very serious toned. Anyway, next up for Saul, this is probably nice for him. Persona 5 Joker is making it into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Pass on day one.
Making people think that Persona 5 may lose its PlayStation console exclusivity and go over to the Switch, though right now there's no confirmation on that. And of course, let's see, all the winners that they did.
So
we could talk about the fact that God of War got Game of the Year.
Before we go into this, I want to be in agreement. Since last year we did such a bad job about saying this is already my Game of the Year so many times before actual awards.
Yeah.
I don't want to reveal my Game of the Year.
No,
yet.
nor am I. But what I want to say here that was really interesting, and I've talked about this a couple of times with people, I'm happy that God of War got Game of the Year of the nominations that were there, but it didn't feel deserved when you look at the other awards, because the two awards that it got outside of Game of the Year was Best Game Direction and Best Best Action Adventure. Now here's the problem:
they're all swapped. It feels like a couple of these, like best. Now I do know Red Dead Redemption soundtrack is good. It's not as good as God of War's, in my opinion.
And these are very loose things. Like I said, for Red Dead, in my opinion, when I look at it, Red Dead just did a good job of making you feel like you were in the era. I'll give it this:
that's true.
The song that they played at the Game Awards is the song that hits at the end of the game, and where it's at, and contextually speaking, it's a great.
See, I need to get there.
But as far as the rest of the soundtrack, I find myself listening to God of War soundtrack occasionally on Google Play Music, and that's not something I can say of the Red Dead soundtrack.
Best ongoing game's Fortnite, which I guess makes sense when you're talking numbers, but that's not the better game than Destiny 2 is. That's not the better game than Final Fantasy 14 is.
But it honestly makes sense considering how many people play it and how much they do to constantly update the game and support the player base.
No, I'm not saying that it's a bad game in that sense. I'm just saying that
But I think it deserves the award in the sense that it is the best ongoing game for a lot of people.
It's this generation's Minecraft.
It is. It very much is.
It's absolutely crazy how that game that was free, that became a $30 get your battle royale free for a week thing, past did, and then now it's this.
Yeah.
When I paid the $30 to play it the weekend early because I was off that weekend, and I'd never played a battle royale game. I was like, this is pretty fun. Soon got tired out on it, then picked it back up, then soon got tired on it, then picked it back up. I went through phases with this game. Never at all did it click to me or occur that this game is going to be worth billions in total media that it has done now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
But to get back real quick to the point I was trying to make about the Game of the Year for God of War, it doesn't feel right when you look at and he has the list up right now. So Best Narrative is Red Dead Redemption 2. Best Score, Red Dead Redemption 2. Best Audio Design, Red Dead Redemption 2. I think Best Performance is Red Dead Redemption 2, or what?
I don't even see. Yeah, no. Well, technically, Roger Clark is.
So Roger Clark is Arthur Morgan.
Boy.
All right. So when you look at all these things, and I'm not saying that Red Dead doesn't deserve these. This is all really subjective. But when you look at what's going on and the way that they weight these scores and everything, it doesn't feel like God of War is the Game of the Year when you look at all of these and the game with the best story and the best score and the best audio design and the best performance. All of the things that you would normally look at were like, well, what would make my Game of the Year? Well, my Game of the Year would have the best story. It would probably have the best music. It'd have the best audio design. It would have the best performance from somebody. And all of these things...
It was the Illuminati.
...don't add up. Yeah. But all those things don't add up when you think about it. Like, honestly, I think it would have felt more in line with everything that was going on if Red Dead would have won, because the rest of the night's awards don't make sense.
We were sitting here and like... When it all came up, I think Fortnite was one of them. Red Dead was one of them. God of War was one of them. I think we even said to each other, Red Dead.
Yeah.
And then they said God of War, like, what?
Yeah, it just felt weird. I was happy, and I'm glad that the team at Santa Monica got it. It just goes to show, in my opinion, like, when you look at these, The way they're weighted doesn't make sense. The game of the year should also probably be the one that heads the most awards in other areas. Definitely in the areas that tend to make up what you look for in a game of the year, which is not only story, but gameplay and stuff like that. So when you look at it in that sense, it's just so weird.
I will say
that it won.
The art direction, they have Return of the Obra Dinn. Dude, look at this game. It's
looks
like black
sick.
and white Inkscape almost.
Yeah, it looks sick.
Like somebody has done pencil or pen art with just black ink. You know, this game has a 10 out of 10 on Steam out of 1,700 reviews. That's a good game. I really want to go home and pick this game up on Steam, or at least when it goes on sale, because it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks interesting. But I mean,
at least you got Celeste for 3 of them, right? You got Games for Impact, Best Independent Game, and there's one more for Celeste, I thought.
I want to. Okay, maybe not. I like that best VR game. All of the VR games are best VR AR game. If I'm not mistaken, every nominee was a PSVR game, which is not surprising. It goes to show that when you're looking at something like this, PSVR is the leader of its market. Doesn't even have to be the most powerful or the best in terms of what would you call it? The best tracking, stuff like that. It's not the best overall package in terms of how good the graphics are or how well the tracking is, but it ends up being the best by the nature of what games it's getting, and that's a testament to how well Sony have done to not only support it themselves, but what other people have done to come in and support it as well.
What is Into the Breach?
I don't know.
It says best strategy game.
Well, there you go.
I've never heard of it before.
It's a strategy game, so
I'm gonna smack you around a little bit.
Is there anything else you want to talk about from that list that stands out to you as really interesting?
Without giving too much away, hush. Why is the volume so... Okay, sorry about that.
So professional.
This game actually looks pretty dope. It looks like Advance Wars mixed with tactics. Anyways, without giving too much away, for an episode we're going to do here in the next couple weeks, I'm not going to say much. I'm going to say that there are some games that are incredibly deserving of their titles that they've got.
I'm so glad that it won something.
I'm so glad this game won something too.
But I cannot believe
it beat something else.
That it got beat out by something else in terms of best action game.
It got beat out.
Well, it got beat out in another category. The game that won it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What category was that? Out of curiosity, do you remember?
Best indie game, I want to say.
Oh man.
Best independent game. Corey got that one with Celeste, and you know what? I'm happy for him.
Yeah, that game deserves it.
All right, well, Saul, is there anything else you would like to throw up?
No. I would not like to throw up at all.
Are you sure?
Let us know what you guys thought of the Game Awards overall. Like, did you agree with the winner? Did you think Red Dead was the better game? Let us know, and we'll see you guys soon. Once again, remember, a little off topic from PlayStation, but if you want to play Smash, join the Discord, and we'll
somebody needs to bring this man down a peg, please. If you own a Switch,
technically Blaze did. He beat me once
with Lucina.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
But we were also talking about future channel stuff, and I was kind of distracted, and I killed myself. Stupid Toon Link's down smash is just straight down. I was over the ledge. So,
all right. Anyway, that will be all for this. And this is what, 89? Is that right?
Yep.
Oh man, 89 episodes
89,
of this show.
9.
Yep. All right. Thanks. This has been Triangle Squared.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks to our patrons, Chad V, Dan Barber, Josh Jarrell, Mikey 12. My name is Dan, Douglas Below, Sean Santarude, Shadowist, Steven Salazar, The Stonard, Travis Below, Blake Post, Eduardo Palomino. If you would like to support this channel, the link will be in the description below. We appreciate it. Thanks.